So I'm going to get Saxman involved here. So you got three candidates running for the Senate primary in Georgia. It's going to go to runoff. You got Derek Dooley endorsed by the governor, very popular governor, Brian Kemp, which is why I think Dooley eventually wins. You got Mike Collins, bomb thrower, and you got Buddy Carter, really nice guy from Savannah. He's at 20%, but I don't think he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get in the runoff. And even if he does, he'd probably get beat. But I have no problem. The guy's a good guy. I'd have no problem with Derek or Buddy. I just don't think Collins going. But here's the problem. You just heard what Josh said 3 times. He said it. Mm-hmm. We don't need a circular firing squad. But Chris, that's what you're going to get because Collins is going to go. Collins will spend millions of dollars going negative on Derek Dooley, and then Dooley gets in a runoff with Collins. He spends another $5 million blasting him. Whatever. Dooley wins, and now you got 25, 30 million spent blasting Dooley, and now he's got to go against Ossoff, who's got $1 billion and nothing negative on him. And you're in the same boat that I was in with Oz and McCormick in 2022. You can't overcome it.
Of course you can overcome it. The question is, every election is what is the economic solution that you have? It's all what did Clinton famously say? It's the economy, stupid. It's been every year. We do this every year in Virginia. The number one issue in Virginia yesterday was the economy. What was Winston Sears' message on the economy?
Never had one.
Didn't have one.
Okay, but we're talking about the primary about the negative ads going against Dooley.
Whatever. What you have to do, primaries are designed to be competitive elections within a party, and the best ideas and the best candidates are going to win. So hopefully what Georgia Republicans will do is come out with an economic message that will resonate with Georgia voters. If you run against, he's going to make this California, this, that, and the other thing, Georgia voters are going to go, really? Not all of them, but enough.
I'll have to agree with that, John. I'll have to agree with that, especially with the youth vote. And I want to give a shout out, by the way, to the Georgia Young Republicans. This election cycle, whether it was PSC or special elections, we knocked on 50,000 doors. Yep. We did not stop at all. We were in Forsyth County. We were in Cobb, Fulton, everywhere. And one thing I do want to mention, though, is the affordability crisis. That is a thing. When you talk to younger voters specifically, I was talking to some people I went to college with, and these were people who were not habitual voters, but they felt driven to vote in this race because they're paying $200, $300 in their apartment for power bills. Yeah. So it is something I know that the Republican Party leading into 2026, we have a few people already openly talking about that. And that is definitely something that needs to be discussed. Now, into the primary thing, one thing I will say, whoever is the nominee in 2026, Turning Point's going to have some solid coalitions helping them at the doors. One thing Tyler Boyer mentioned last night on Thought Crime was we didn't really reach out to Maha this cycle. We could have had Nicole Shanahan or other members of Maha reaching out to that demographic, and that could have helped in a lot of the races. Same with, midterms. We have moms, suburban moms, and people of faith, especially in Georgia, the suburban mom vote, that's going to be in question when it comes to the Senate race. So we need to ensure we're mobilizing now. And at Turning Point, right now, in November 2025, we have over 100 moms signed up through our Moms Coalition. We're hoping that comes even more because that's moms all across Metro Atlanta able to help us in that critical August to November time period, reaching out to voters before that early voting period.
And I will say one thing. My stance on campaigning in the primary is that I'd rather see dirty laundry aired in the primary so voters can make the decision for themselves, having all the information, instead of waiting until we have a Republican nominee, then airing the dirty laundry, Democrats airing it in the general election. So I think it's better we get it out now, and that is what's being done. Fortunately, Derek Dooley kind of has a clean slate. He does not have a record that Democrats can run against. He's got the support of one of the most popular governors in the United States, Brian Kemp. So I think he's our best shot to retire John Ossoff.
Brad Carver, interesting thing in this Georgia Senate primary, which I know is going to get nasty because the Collins camp, they're just nasty people.
Yeah.
And this is really, I'm telling you, Brad, this is really my fear there. If this was Buddy Carter v, the new guy, the businessman, can't think of his name. He's got a couple, Dean or something. If it was him and Carter and Dooley, I wouldn't worry about it. I know how nasty and mean the apparatus around Mike Collins is. These are nasty people, and they are going to be nasty. And there's no, like, if there was ranked choice voting, guess what? We wouldn't have this conversation. Wouldn't be having it, because you know what? Mike Collins has got to get people second choice. So he can't be nasty, because he'll get 30%, and that's the end of him. So they don't have that. You have a runoff, but Brad, this is my fear, is that they're going to go, because Collins is going to lose his seat, right, if he doesn't win. So they're going to go scorched earth, flamethrowers, bazookas, negative, everything they got. They'll empty the tank on this guy, and then probably lose, and then is that gonna hurt us, Carver?
Well, I'll say I agree with Josh that primaries are never a fun thing for us. I do agree with what Debbie said. You certainly don't want to be in a situation where you have a candidate that glides through a primary and hasn't really been vetted, and then the dirty laundry comes out later. That's very dangerous. So, I mean, we have an open seat, a competitive primary. May the best person win. But what we have to do is, once we get that person, we've got to all come together and unite and let the egos go away, and do that. That's how we
You can't do that if you're spending $30 million in negative ads blasting somebody. You can't do it. I mean, it sounds great. This is great. Let's see, kumbaya. We're all going to get together around the campfire and do marshmallows or whatever you guys do. I'll do a vodka, whatever you guys do. But it doesn't work that way. When you get,
I feel like it might be a little different, considering the fact that the city of Marietta just elected a Democrat socialist who literally lives in his mom's basement. So I think the sentiment's a little different, because we can play New York. It's in our backyard now. Like, I think, our base, we might be divided in a primary, but right now we have a socialist that sits in a prominent metro Atlanta city, a city I was born in. And so I think right now, especially with the young generation of young Republicans out here, we're fired up. So I think it's going to be a little bit different. We have a case scenario. You have young Republicans going, stop the infighting. Seriously, we're out here on the ground. We need y'all to join us, and that's kind of the energy I think that the grassroots has after last night.
Ours and college Republicans, young Republicans in Georgia, they are Georgia's treasure. They get out and they work their butts off. They have so much energy that they could actually run an advertisement as Energizer Bunnies, because they keep going and going and going. They're phenomenal folks to work with. But I do think that the most important thing, and I do agree with Governor Kemp when he said that we need to nominate the most conservative one that can win the general election. And all odds are going to be on Georgia next year. And I just think that Derek Dooley can retire. John Ossoff, in fact, my group, America First Tea Party, just endorsed Derek Dooley because we believe we have 19,600.
We don't want a political commercial for your candidate. Okay, I agree with you. If I was there, I'd vote for Dooley. I'm endorsing him. That's Kemp's guy. I'm not going against Kemp again. So we're there, right? So the question becomes. Here's what I would love to see. I would love to see Derek Dooley run a 100% positive campaign, talking about all the things he'll do and all the things he'll do to help Georgians and go forward, and all the positive things that Saxman's saying. You got to run a positive campaign and talk about what you're going to do. I would love to see him do that in the primary, and just don't respond to the negative attacks from Collins that are coming, and they've already started, because that's what this. If this campaign devolves into that, you guys are going to hurt yourself, because that's That's my only argument.
When you attack each other, you have the unfavorables, and if you are raising issues that swing voters, suburban voters don't like, it's going to stick with them. And John Ossoff is not going out there going, oh, I'm going to attack fellow Democrats. What he's doing right now is he has 20 million on hand right now in Georgia. Do you think he's talking to swing voters? He's probably talking only to swing voters because he knows he has the Democrats. If you take a look at Virginia's results last night and you don't draw one conclusion, if the Republican Party doesn't solve their suburban problem, they're going to lose suburban dominated states.
Right.
Point of fact. That's it. That's it. And you can attack each other all you want to. People don't care. People don't care that much about Jay Jones in Virginia after all. It was an economic issue last night, and the Republicans got their asses kicked. Go solve the problem. You know what the problem is. Just go deal with it.
Josh, how are you guys going to do that?
Well, I think, obviously we do need to articulate answers on these issues. Congresswoman Green has talked about the healthcare issue. Of course, Emory's touched on affordability, housing affordability, particularly in metropolitan Atlanta. That's something our candidates are going to have to talk about. I do think that there is also value in reminding people it's not just the state representative Emory was talking about. We came within about 100 votes last night of the mayor of Marietta being a 24-year-old endorsed by the Democratic Socialist Party and the Working Families Party, sort of our own Mondami situation. So I do think that there's a wake-up call in this election and an opportunity to activate a lot of our people. I mean, this happens. It happens every time we win the White House. People say, "Whew, I've done my job. I got President Trump elected. I don't have to do anything else." And I think, if nothing else, I think we can all agree last night was a pretty stark reminder that the work is not finished. It never ends. We've got to get started again.
I mean, you can even look in some counties, like, for instance, Paulding County, where I live. I mean, the Democrats showed up in precincts where predominantly they don't perform well. My precinct alone, they came within 27 votes of almost carrying that precinct. I mean, this is quite literally a street that you're covering. And that's why we try to heavily emphasize in these elections, your neighbors reaching out to them matters. Because again, historically, Republicans in midterms, we don't show out, and they're our neighbors. And we've got to do a more intentional job at teaching our activists how to relational organize on a local level.
So Emory, Marietta, Georgia. I mean, Marietta's got a history. It's got a long history. Got a square there. Was always very conservative. I mean, I remember when Pat Buchanan ran against George Bush, was at 92.
Yeah.
Primary, I was for Buchanan. Everybody knows that. And I remember taking my, what was it, 92. So I took my 2-year-old son, Jack, who's now 35, on my shoulders to the Marietta Square to hear Buchanan, and it was packed. We had to sneak our way in to get in there. We were like 40 minutes early. The place was packed. How did they come within 100 votes of electing a communist?
One thing is, you have a major institution there. I went there. It's called Kennesaw State. And when I was there for 4 or 5 years, Democrats were organizing on campus. They were registering voters, kids that lived in South Georgia, and having them vote in Cobb County. I can't express enough how significant that is in a 4-year period when these kids are living, because Kennesaw State, there's 2 campuses, City of Kennesaw and City of Marietta. It used to be another institution. Kennesaw bought them out, and they are showing up for these races. They know how to organize on the campuses. They go organize in the apartment complexes and the rental homes that they're renting out, and they're changing the voting demographic. I saw it within a 4-year period of being on campus. Ed Setzler used to represent a House district over there in the city of Kennesaw and Ackworth. It is now held by a Democrat, and that happened within a 3-year period. And it's because they know how to organize these kids. They're registering the vote during voter registration drive. They're ensuring that they're dropping off their ballots, or going and making sure, even if they're voting, if they're not in Cobb County, they're voting absentee. They are relentless with that, but they ensure one thing specific: those kids that are in South Georgia and some of those rural Republican counties, come vote in Cobb County. And this is why, in the past 10 years, we've seen Cobb change tremendously. And you know what? Paulding is right by Cobb. And that's why I'm concerned, because it's knocking on the door of Northwest Georgia if we don't get careful.
And I agree. And here is another thing. I used to be vice chair of the Cobb Republican Party in 2003 and 2005. It was, at that time, it was the largest Republican county, the largest number of red votes in Georgia. That changed. The state of Georgia passed legislation to give extremely generous tax credits to the movie and TV industry. And all that's done is import Democrat voters from New York and California.
Good point.
And they're coming in, and that
Good
is
point,
what's
Debbie.
going on.
And we're about to get a whole lot more, Debbie.
Yeah, we are. And that is an issue. That is why Georgia became purple. It's all we're importing using tax breaks to attract Democrats to Georgia with the movie and TV industry.
Chris?
It's the economy. People move to Georgia for economic incentives. If that's your complaint, it's because they were drawn there. The policies have drawn people to Georgia who probably aren't going to vote the way the previous people who elected to get those policies.
And all done by Republican governors.
And that's why people move to Texas or people move to Florida. It's the economy. I don't know how many times we have to beat this into people's skulls. It's the economy. Look at the numbers from 24. President Trump won on the economy by 63 points. Democrats yesterday won on the issue of the economy by 30 points. That's a 93-point swing. If you don't deal with people's pocketbooks and their reality, about how tight things really are in their lives, whether they're college students at Kennesaw or whether they're up at VCU in Richmond, it's always going to come down to the economy. Am I getting ahead? Am I doing better than I was last year? Who's going to show up on that? Abigail Spanberger posted 300,000 more votes than Glenn Youngkin got 4 years ago. If you don't deal with the onslaught that the Republicans suffered yesterday in Northern Virginia, you're not going to win. The same way with the suburban counties around Atlanta. If you don't solve those economic problems that they have, you're not going to win.
And here's the thing about young voters that are not involved in Young Republicans or YDSA or whatever. They are very much, you don't know how they're going to vote. And I have a lot of friends that are teachers. I live within an hour from the Alabama border. They're going and teaching in Alabama because they're getting paid more. I promise you, if you had one of our governor candidates mention that problem and the fact that they're going to, try to increase teacher salary, it doesn't matter Republican or Democrat. My friends who are recent college grads who are trying to make a living are going to go vote whoever tells them that. So again, Republicans have got to be able to articulate economic issues, especially to the youth. And it doesn't, and we've had a stigma in the past with the Republicans. Me being involved as a young person, I would talk about these issues 3 or 4 years ago, and I'd get called a socialist. And it's like, that's not how you're going to draw young people into the party. So we need to remember this, because the economic issues, I'm telling you, is going to be a driving factor in 2026, especially for the young voters.
Let me give you a perspective from the veterans on the economy. Virginia has a huge base of federal workers, veterans, and active duty transitioning into the local economy. They have choices to make: North Carolina South or stay in Virginia. It's very important to understand, as much as we want to take care of our veterans, worry about suicides and get them proper medical care, that's good. But veterans are constantly in transition. They transition from civilian or from military to civilian, from job to job, typically 2 to 3 jobs in the first 5 years. So the economy is a critical element in their calculus about stay or go. It's like we're exporting in Virginia voters that are typically Republican. 68-32 is the way the votes break in Virginia, Republican versus Democrat. 68-32 of a huge population, about 1.17 million in Virginia. And all of that churn of people coming out into the local economy is very important for us to understand. We have to capture them, inclined to vote Republican, but we have to do it with help in transition from military to civilian, or from job to job, or to build their small businesses. Naturally entrepreneurs. And to consider them just kind of, well, they're going to stay here and they typically vote. That's not true. They have the choices all over the world right now, all over the states, because everybody's trying to attract this kind of somewhat mature workforce that's coming out of job creation in the military into job creation into the civilian life. It's about the economy. It is about care and suicide and other things in the military, absolutely, and the care they deserve to get. but it's the economy that keeps them there. It's the schools that make them decide to stay in Northern Virginia. And you cannot overcome, by the way, about a 300,000 absentee ballot bubble that the Democrats have in Virginia, as opposed to the Republicans. And on day one of early voting, 45 days out, you're staring at this mountaintop. And there you are working that mountaintop the whole time. And it's very, very important that we got to overcome that.
We got to figure it out. We got to figure out how to be better at that. And we've been trying hard. And our early voting keeps going up, but a lot of our base just doesn't want to embrace it. And they figured it out. I mean, they harvest votes legally. I mean, it's not like voter fraud. Chris, everything you do is illegal. They were given a system,
Right.
And they were smart enough to exploit it. And we're standing around talking about, Judson Pulitzer, or whatever the guy's name, and servers on the moon and vote on game day and some phantom algorithm that some drone changes in the middle of the night. I mean, it's insane what we deal with.
It's just math. All you're dealing with is
math.
Simple math.
So look,
That's right.
it doesn't a whole lot to figure this out. I just, while everybody was talking about the issues of the economy and all that, I just ran a Grok query. So we use AI. Simple question. And it scraped around the country. What is the number one issue? What is number 2, 3 issue? Number one issue across the country is the economy. 50% of all people that they polled said the economy is the number one issue. The next closest thing behind it was 15% in immigration and border security, and then 10% in abortion, and it goes down from there. Nothing comes close to the economy. And did she have any message at all on the economy?
No, God, no. So what my friends in Georgia need to do for all these candidates who are running for whatever office, the first question you ask them in any form, what is your economic policy? What problem are you trying to solve? Because if you can't do that as a party and take that to the broader electorate, you're
done.
lose. You're going to lose.
You're done.
That's the only issues you're talking about.
Guys, we got to roll. Peach Crew enjoyed it. Thank you, Brad Carver. Good to see you, Brad. Your wife. And speaking of loves to wives, to Jackie, Josh's wife, love to her. Josh, thanks for being with us. Bob Wood, always good to see you, Bob. Good to get the Debster back.
Yep.
This message from Debbie Dooley, paid for and authorized by the Derek Dooley for Senate campaign. Thank you, Debbie. And Carver and Emery, you were very articulate as always.
Thank you. I want to shout out to my colleague, Southeast Rep North Carolina. His name's Isaiah Payne. He just won a city council seat last night. So we have another Turning Point rep in elected office. So good times.
See you tomorrow at 6 a.m.
See ya.
Patrick.
Bye, everybody.